Megan had lived in the apartment for about 8 months when it started. Third-floor unit, 1 bedroom, a building that had maybe 20 units total, not a huge complex, not a small one. Built in the 1980s, renovated sometime in the early 2000s, the kind of building that was functional and comfortable without being particularly remarkable. She knew a few of her neighbors by face, 1 or 2 by name. She said it was the kind of building where people minded their own business in a friendly way. Nobody's door was ever open, but people held the elevator for you. She worked from home as a medical transcriptionist, which meant her hours were flexible, and she was in the apartment most of the day. She said she knew that building the way you know a place you spend a lot of time in alone. Its sounds, its rhythms, the way the pipes talked in the morning, the way the floors in the hallway outside her door had a specific creak pattern she could identify with her eyes closed. She knew what was normal. The first thing she noticed was a smell. It started about 2 weeks before everything else happened. A smell coming from her bathroom, specifically from the toilet. She described it as damp and dark, the way a basement smells, or the way a drain smells when something organic has gotten into the pipes and started to break down. Not a sewage smell exactly. Something older than that. Something that didn't smell like a plumbing problem so much as it smelled like the ground, like wet earth. She cleaned the toilet thoroughly. She used drain cleaner. She bought one of those tank tablets that's supposed to keep everything fresh. The smell faded for a day and then came back. She called her building manager. A maintenance guy came out, checked the toilet, checked under the sink, ran water in the shower for a while, declared there was no obvious issue and that sometimes older buildings got smells from the sewer line and it would pass. He left. The smell stayed. She stopped noticing it after a while, the way you stop noticing background things that don't change. It became part of the apartment's atmosphere the same way the creak in the hallway floor was part of it. She adapted. She lit candles in the bathroom. She kept the door mostly closed. She said, looking back, she wishes she hadn't adapted. She wishes she'd pushed harder on the building manager, because the smell wasn't a plumbing quirk. It was the first sign. The second thing happened on a Wednesday night about 2 weeks after the smell started. She'd gone to bed around 11, normal time for her, and had fallen asleep quickly. She said she was in a deep sleep when she woke up. She didn't know what woke her. No sound she could identify, no bad dream. She was just suddenly awake as she checked her phone, 2:17 a.m., lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling. She lay still for a moment the way you do when you wake up unexpectedly, taking stock of things. Her apartment was quiet. The building was quiet. She could hear the ambient noise of the city outside, distant traffic, nothing unusual. Then she heard something from the bathroom. A sound she couldn't immediately identify. Soft. Coming from inside the bathroom, which was directly across the short hallway from her bedroom door, which she'd left open. She listened. The sound came again, and then she placed it. Water, moving. Not the sound of a drip, not a faucet issue. The sound of water moving in a contained space. The specific, low sound of water shifting and resettling, like the water in the toilet bowl was moving. She lay there and listened to it. It came in intervals, a soft movement, a pause, another movement. Irregular but not random. She said the closest thing she could compare it to was the sound a toilet makes after you flush it, when the water in the bowl is still settling back to its resting level. That gentle, occasional shifting. Except she hadn't flushed the toilet. She hadn't been in the bathroom. She'd been asleep. She told herself it was the building pipes. Pressure changes in old plumbing systems do strange things. Water moves in pipes at night when usage in other units changes. She had a whole rational explanation fully assembled within about 30 seconds. She still didn't get up to check. She lay there and listened to the water moving in her bathroom at 2 a.m., and she did not get up, and eventually, after maybe 10 minutes, the sound stopped. She lay awake for another hour and then fell back asleep. In the morning, she went into the bathroom and looked at the toilet. It looked completely normal. She flushed it once, watched it refill, everything functioning exactly as it should. She examined the floor around the base for leaks. Nothing. She told herself it was the pipes. She moved on with her day. It happened again 2 nights later. Same time, approximately, she checked her phone that second night and it was 2:23 a.m. Same sound. Water moving in the toilet bowl. She lay in bed and listened for about 5 minutes and then it stopped. The third time it happened, she got up. She said she almost didn't. She said she lay there for a solid 2 minutes having an internal argument with herself. The rational side was saying it was pipes. It was always pipes. Getting up to look was going to accomplish nothing except making her feel foolish standing in her bathroom at 2 a.m. staring at a toilet. The other side, the side she said she usually managed to talk herself out of listening to, was saying that the sound had now happened 3 times and she should know what was making it. The other side won. She got up. She crossed the hallway. The bathroom door was mostly closed. She pushed it open and reached in and hit the light switch. Everything looked normal. Toilet, sink, shower, nothing out of place. The smell was present, that damp, dark smell, maybe slightly stronger than usual but not dramatically so. She stood in the doorway and looked at the toilet. The water in the bowl was moving. Not vigorously, not dramatically. Just slightly, gently, the surface of the water in the bowl making small waves the way water makes waves when something has just disturbed it or is very slowly continuing to disturb it. The kind of movement that was about to stop, like she had come in just after something had happened rather than during it. She stood in the doorway and watched the water in the bowl settle back to stillness. It took about 20 seconds. Then it was still, just a toilet. Just water sitting in a bowl the way it always does. She stood there for another minute. Then she went back to bed. She did not sleep well. She called the building manager again the next morning. She explained about the water movement, the recurring sound at night. She said she thought maybe there was something going on with the pipes that was causing pressure fluctuations in the toilet. The building manager sent the same maintenance guy. He checked the toilet again. He checked the water pressure. He did something with the valve behind the toilet. He said the water pressure in the building was normal and that sometimes in older buildings, the toilet fill valve developed small issues that could cause intermittent water movement in the bowl, even without flushing. He replaced the fill valve. He said that should fix it. For 4 nights after that, it was quiet. No sound. She checked the bowl a couple of times during the day and it was still and calm. She started to relax. She told herself the maintenance guy had been right, a faulty fill valve, a simple mechanical issue, nothing more. She started sleeping better. On the 5th night it came back. But this time it was different. She woke up at 2:19 a.m. She'd started nodding the times by that point. She lay in the dark and listened. The sound was there, the water moving, but louder than before, more active. Not the gentle settling sound of before, something that sounded more like displacement, like something moving through water rather than just water moving on its own. She lay there for a long time, longer than any of the previous times. She said the sound went on for almost 15 minutes without stopping, without settling, just continuous intermittent movement in the bowl. And by the end of those 15 minutes, she was sitting up in bed with her back against the headboard and her phone in her hand. She called her friend, she calls her Becca in her message, and she didn't care that it was 2 in the morning. Becca answered on the 4th ring, groggy and confused. Megan said she was sorry. She needed to tell her what was happening. She described the sound, still audible from the bathroom across the hallway, while she was on the phone. She said she needed someone else to be present in some form while she was in that apartment. Becca, to her credit, stayed on the phone. She talked Megan through getting up. She stayed on the line while Megan crossed the hallway. Megan pushed the bathroom door open without turning the light on first this time. She said she doesn't know why she did it that way. She just didn't reach for the switch immediately. In the dark bathroom, the toilet bowl was faintly visible from the ambient city light coming through the small frosted window above the shower. The water in the bowl was moving visibly even in the near dark, more than it had ever moved before. She said the surface of it was broken up, irregular, the way water looks when something is displacing it continuously from below. She turned the light on. It stopped. Instantly, the moment the light came on, the water went still, like whatever was causing the movement had reacted to the light, like it had stopped because the light came on. She stood in the bathroom doorway with the light on and Becca's voice in her ear asking what she was seeing, and she looked at the toilet, and the toilet looked back at her, still and white and perfectly normal, and she said to Becca, she was calm when she said it, she said, which surprised her, she said, something stops when I turn the light on. Becca was quiet for a moment, then she said she was coming over. Becca arrived 20 minutes later. They sat together in the apartment. Megan made tea, the kind of automatic thing you do when you need something to do with your hands, and Megan told her the full sequence. The smell, the sounds, the nights of lying in bed listening, the water moving, the way it stopped when the light came on. Becca was not a person who spooked easily, Megan said. She was practical and direct and not given to irrational fear. She listened to the whole thing, and then she said she wanted to see the bathroom. They went together. Becca looked at the toilet, lifted the lid of the tank, checked the fill valve, the new one the maintenance man had installed 5 days ago. She looked in the bowl. She got down on the floor and looked at the pipe behind the toilet, the connection to the wall. She said she didn't see anything obviously wrong. Then she put the lid back down and leaned against the sink and looked at the toilet for a moment. She asked Megan how far down the pipe went. Megan said she didn't know what she meant. Becca said, where does the pipe go when it leaves the toilet? Down through the floor, through the building, into what? Megan said she assumed it connected to the main building sewer line. That was how plumbing worked. Becca said, right, and the building sewer line connected to the city sewer line, and the city sewer line ran under the street. And underneath the street in a city that had been built and rebuilt over decades, and in some cases more than a century, there were things. Infrastructure going back generations. Old tunnels, old pipes, old construction that had been built over rather than removed. She said she wasn't suggesting anything supernatural. She said she was suggesting that city sewer systems are large, old, complex, and not always fully mapped, and that things live in them. Rats, obviously, but other things too, animals that found their way in, that used the infrastructure to move through the city unseen. She said she wasn't saying that's what it was. She was saying it was a possible explanation worth holding on to. Megan said she appreciated the explanation. She said she's not sure she believed it. She started sleeping with the bathroom light on after that. She said she knew it was going to cost her on her electric bill and she didn't care. She left the light on all night, every night, and the light stayed visible under the bathroom door from where she lay in bed, and she told herself that was enough. For 3 weeks it was quiet, no sounds, no movement. She started to think it was over. She started to think maybe Becca's explanation was right, some animal in the sewer line that had been disturbed or displaced and had found its way up through the pipes and was now gone. She started leaving the bathroom light off again. 4 days after she started leaving the light off, she woke up at 2 a.m. and the sound was back. And this time, there was something else. She was lying in bed listening to the sound from the bathroom, about a minute into it, when she heard something that made every hair on her body stand up. The toilet seat. The sound of the toilet seat moving. That specific hollow plastic sound of the seat shifting, the way it shifts when weight is applied to it or removed from it. One sound, brief, definitive. Something had put weight on the toilet seat. She did not get up. She did not turn a light on. She lay in bed and she did not move, and she listened, and the sound from the bathroom continued for another 8 minutes. Water moving, intermittent, irregular, and then stopped. She lay awake until it was fully light outside. Then she got up, turned every light in the apartment on, packed a bag, and called Becca and asked if she could stay for a few days. She told her building manager she was breaking her lease. She cited a persistent, unresolved maintenance issue and used enough specific language about habitability codes that he didn't push back significantly. She was out of the apartment within 3 weeks. She said she has thought about the rational explanation many times since then. She said she genuinely cannot dismiss Becca's theory, the sewer system, an animal, something that came up through the pipe and used the bowl as an exit point. She said that is a real thing that happens, and she knows it, and she holds on to it when she needs to. But she said there are 2 things she can't make that explanation fit around no matter how hard she tries. The first is the way the water stopped moving the instant she turned the light on. Not gradually, the way a startled animal would scramble away and the water would settle over a few seconds. Instantly, simultaneously with the light, as if the light itself was the signal. As if whatever was in the water didn't want to be seen. The second is the toilet seat. She said an animal coming up through the toilet would not put weight on the seat. The seat is above the bowl. An animal exiting through the bowl would go into the room. It would not stop and apply weight to the seat from below. The geometry of it didn't work. Something had put weight on the seat from above. Something that had come out of the bowl, or had been in the bowl, and had placed itself on the seat. In her bathroom, in her apartment, in the dark at 2 a.m. while she lay 12 feet away across a hallway. She said she doesn't know what it was. She said she doesn't know if she wants to know. She said she's lived in 2 apartments since then, and in both of them she does the same thing before she goes to sleep every night without thinking about it. It's just become part of her routine, like locking the door or turning off the stove. She puts the toilet lid down, all the way down, and she leaves the bathroom light on. She said most nights she doesn't think about why. But some nights, the nights when she wakes up at 2 a.m. for no reason she can identify and lies in the dark listening to her apartment, she thinks about the pipe that goes down through the floor and into the building system, and from there into the city below. She thinks about how far down it goes, and what else might be down there in the dark, wet spaces under the streets, and whether whatever came up through her toilet that night went back down the same way it came. Or whether it found somewhere else to go. That's Megan's story. I think what makes it work on a level that's hard to shake is exactly what she was worried about at the beginning, the setting. We use the bathroom every day, multiple times a day. It's the most mundane space in any home. It's the one room we go into half asleep, with no defenses up, not thinking about anything except being awake enough to function. The idea that something was using that space, that specific, familiar, utterly ordinary space, in the hours when she was asleep, is the thing that I think follows you after a story like this. We lock our front doors. We check our windows. We think about the ways things can get in from outside. We don't think about what's below us. We don't think about the pipes.